Crime Fridays is like I said, it is a Friday, which obviously if you are a regular on these streams, you'll know that every single Friday we cover a true crime case, whether you guys recommend it or I just find one anyway. Evening, Scarlett, how are you doing? How are you doing today? It is warm in this room. Sup, Stag, how you doing? It is freaking warm in this room today. Like, I am dying right now from this heat, but I don't want to open my window because I don't want my neighbors listening in on what I'm talking about. Dying because it's too fucking warm. We're in the same boat then today. That's cool. We're in the same boat. That's what we want. We want to be in the same boat today. So, yeah, today, what are we drinking tonight? I've still got wine from yesterday. I didn't drink the whole bottle, so I'm just finishing that off. It's red wine, so I'm just seeing that off. But yeah, I'm not doing too bad today. I'm not doing too bad. Got my tattoo in a few more days. Disappointment. Yeah, I didn't want to drink much today anyway. I didn't want to drink as much last night, but I am going to ask my boyfriend if he finished, because my boyfriend's going out for drinks today. So I'm going to ask him, could you potentially pick up some lemonade on your way back so I can have like a gin? If you come back, if you could, if anywhere is open, could you bring me back some lemonade, please? There we go. What you getting? I'm just gonna ask him if he can just give me some lemonade so I can make some gin and so I can make some pink gin and lemonades later. Because I'd normally be like, can you bring me back a beer? But I don't think he's gonna get me a beer. Tattoo. Oh, right. I thought you meant drinks wise. Clearly, my mind is elsewhere. Just drink pink gin straight. I'd rather not, actually. I've never drank gin straight. And I don't know if I want to start today. That can be a forfeit if I ever came to it. Tattoo wise, I'm getting. So it's like a rabbit skull that has like a bunch of flowers around it. Can't really remember what flowers they are. But it's just like a rabbit skull with a bunch of flowers and it's going on my thigh. Gotta start sometime. True that. So, everyone, today we are covering a gruesome case, but also a shorter case than last week's. Last week was long, to say the least, and this one today is not as long, but it is just as messed up. I'm probably gonna get a Billy the Puppet Butt trans. Everyone just share your tattoo ideas. That'd be sick. We can talk tattoos after we talk murder. So, like to point this out to anyone if you are not new here, and then or you've not been here for a True Crime Friday. Every True Crime Friday is recorded to go up onto YouTube, so basically, I'd say if you don't want anything out on YouTube that you may regret, that you may say in the chat, just want a bit of a pre-warning. First ever life sentence without parole in Australia, right? For a woman, yes. She's the first one to have that sentence as a woman. So, she's the first woman with that sentence, which is insane. But what she does is quite insane anyway. So, it makes a lot of sense. So I have shown a disclaimer, but just in case you didn't get the chance to read the disclaimer, I will read it again for you. So this is a true crime stream. No one is glorifying these crimes/criminals. This stream is for historical and educational reasons and to remember the victims of these crimes. I do not mean to offend anyone with this stream. Also, any money donated during a true crime stream goes straight to a charity for people who have been a victim of crime and obviously have suffered quite a lot from it. This stream may mention murder, violence, sexual assault, rape, and child abuse that some people may find upsetting or triggering. So a little bit of a heads up there, just in case. Hey, ruin the whole wholesomeness of today. Night's fanny needs cutting off. Very true, it does. Why does her name ring a bell? It probably because she keeps trying to appeal her sentence, so she keeps ending up back in the news every now and again. Hey, Death Grip, how you doing? Way to kick off the weekend, let's go. Which is the reason why we started off with murder. Is she still alive? To my knowledge, she is still alive, yes. I remember why I googled her name once. Yeah, you might have googled her. It might have just like popped up somewhere. Hello. And then you find yourself googling her. My neighbours are just making a lot of noise. And yeah. So yeah, bear in mind to everyone, just in case, every single True Crime Friday gets uploaded onto YouTube. So just in case you don't want to say anything that will end up on there. There you go, there's a little bit of a pre-warning. So why don't we get this started then? Let's go for it. So if you see me looking this way, I'm reading off my research. I am terrible with my memory. You've got no chance of me just memorizing it like a script. And like, you can just see the wine bottle chilling on the bed in the background. Pikachu's holding it. Because I didn't want it on my desk. My desk isn't that big. So I didn't want to just clutter it. So Pikachu's holding it. So Pikachu stumbled on some hard times. Pikachu's with me, so obviously that's bound to happen. So Katherine Knight. Katherine Knight, we've already mentioned, is currently the first woman in Australia that has a full life sentence without parole. So she's not a nice lady, to say the very least. My boyfriend's so damn cute. He calls me, "Aw, cute." I don't know what true crime is. It's crime that happened in real life. It's true shit. She's innocent. No. Oh no, the lady is. Oh no, definitely not. So Katherine Knight was originally from the town of Aberdeen in New South Wales, Hunter Valley, by her mother Barbara Rowan. Barbara was forced to move to Moree after beginning a relationship with Ken Wright, who was a co-worker of her husband at the time, who was called Jack. So Katherine's mum met this guy called Ken when she was already married. Ken was a co-worker of her husband at the time, and they were having quite a long affair. So the Rowan Knight families were well known in the conservative rural town, and the affair was a major scandal at the time. The two of Rowan's 4 children remained with their father, while the 2 youngest were sent to live with their aunt in Sydney. So all the children were pretty much split up from this whole affair. Katherine was the younger of twins born to Barbara and Ken on the 24th of October 1955 in Tenterfield, New South Wales. Jack died in 1969, and the 2 children who lived with him moved in with the Knight family. So Jack, Barbara's previous husband, who was taking care of their 2 kids, died in 1969, and they had to move in with their mother all over again and start a whole new life. Barbara's grandmother was apparently an Indigenous Australian from the Moree area who married an Irishman, apparently. This is apparently very important information, according to a lot of articles. She was proud of this fact and liked to think of her own family as Aboriginal. This was kept a family secret, as there was a considerable racism in the area at the time. So at the time, in this particular part of Australia, there was a lot of racism, fucking hell. And it was a source of the tension for the children. So basically it was all kept very secret to apparently keep the children safe from a lot of racist people. So apart from her twin, the only person she was close with was her uncle Oscar Knight, who was a champion horseman. She was devastated when he committed suicide in 1969 and continues to maintain that his ghost visits her. The family moved back to Aberdeen the same year. So yeah, you can already tell she's a bit of a nut job. You believe in ghosts, like I do myself, that is completely fine, but I highly doubt her uncle is visiting her. Katherine's father, Ken, was an alcoholic who openly used violence and intimidation to rape her mother up to 10 times a day, which he often did in front of the children as well. It's already forming. The whole murderer thing is already forming. Barbara, in turn, often told her daughters intimate details of her sex life and how much she hated sex and men. which is very, very odd when you can... It's very odd anyway, but it also doesn't make sense that when it came to later on in Catherine's life, Katherine actually complained to her mother that one of her partners wanted her to take part in a sex act that she didn't want to do, and Barbara ended up just telling Katherine to put up with it and stop complaining. So everything that was happening to Barbara didn't give really two shits at the end of the day. So Knight also claims she was frequently sexually abused by several family members, except for her father. So she's pretty much very open about the fact that her father never did anything to her, but other family members did. So the abuse apparently continued in her life until she was around the age of 11, which is fucking horrible. It's also very, very common for murderers, unfortunately. Although they have minor doubts about the details, psychiatrists accept her claim as all her family members confirmed that the abuse did actually happen. So this has actually been confirmed to be true by various members of the family. According to former friends and those who knew her as a child, she was apparently a very pleasant little girl. However, this didn't really stop her uncontrollable murderous rages that she had in response to the most minor things that was going on. So anything that was really, really minor would pretty much just cause her to go into a massive rage, and no one knew why. When she attended Mulswell Brook High School, she became a loner and remembered by classmates as a bully who stood over smaller children. She assaulted at least one boy at school with a weapon and was once injured by a teacher who was found to have acted in self-defense. By contrast, when not in a rage, Katherine was a model student and often earned awards for her good behaviour. Now, I don't know how this bitch is getting awards for her good behaviour when, you know, she's attacking teachers and beating people up. She's clearly one of those kids in school where she'd misbehave all the time, but if she behaved once, she'd get rewarded for stuff. You know, those dickheads who later on come up to be arseholes. So when she left school at the age of 15 without having learned to read or write, so she was pretty much illiterate when she left school, she gained employment as a cutter at a clothing factory. 12 months later, she left to start what she referred to as her dream job, which was cutting off offal at the local abattoir, from where she was quickly promoted to, it says boning, I'm just going to say it, and giving her own set of butcher knives. So basically, she got a job where she was pretty much being trained to what she would eventually do. So at home, she hung the knives over her bed so they would always be handy if she needed them, a habit she continued very much later on. And she did this with every single place that she lived in. In 1973, when Katherine was 18, she met her co-worker named David Stanford Kellett. Now, David was an alcoholic just like her father. In the relationship, Katherine completely dominated him, and not in a consensual, kinky way. If Kelly got into a fight at the local hotel, Katherine would step in and back him up with her fist without fail. I mean, fair enough, always gotta have that handy. In Aberdeen, she was renowned for offering armed combat to anyone who upset her. Okay, that's not normal. The two got married in 1974 at her request, so she was the one who asked him to marry her, which was very different, which was quite fast-paced for the time. Both of them arrived at the service together on Katherine's motorcycle, with Kellett being heavily intoxicated on the pillion. As soon as they arrived, Katherine's mother, Barbara, gave Kellett some advice. So this is a quote from Kellett on his recollection of the wedding day. The old girl said to me, "Watch out, you better watch this one or she'll fucking kill you. Stir her the wrong way or do the wrong thing and you're fucked. Don't ever think of playing up on her, she'll fucking kill you." And that was her mother talking. She told me she's got something loose, she's got a screw loose somewhere. Like, her own mother was saying how dangerous her own daughter is. I mean, she's also a little bit to blame for it, but okay. On their wedding night, she tried to actually strangle him. So on the wedding night, she already tried to strangle him. She tried to justify attempting to kill her new husband because they had only had sex 3 times that night and he fell asleep and refused another round. Take a break, love. Like, just take a fucking break. From this violent start to the marriage, naturally it was downhill from there. The marriage was particularly violent, and on one occasion, a very heavily pregnant Katherine burned all of Kellett's clothing and shoes before hitting him across the back of the head with a frying pan. Yeah, this is quite common, by the way. This was simply because he had arrived home late from a darts competition after making the finals. So basically, he loved to play darts, he'd made the finals in a competition, and he was home a little bit later than what was expected, because, you know, things get overrun. And, yeah, she smacked him over the head with a frying pan. Yeah, that's reasonable. That's reasonable. So in fear for his life, Kellett ran away before collapsing in a neighbour's house, and he was later treated for a badly fractured skull. Police wanted to charge her, but Knight was now on her best behaviour and talked Kellett into dropping the charges. I want to know, how good is she at getting people to do various different things if she's managing to get away with a lot of stuff. Shakespeare Psycho, oh god, it gets worse. In May 1976, shortly after the birth of their first child, Melissa Ann, Kellett left her for another woman and moved to Queensland, apparently unable to cope with her possessiveness and violent behaviour. The next day, Katherine was seen pushing her new baby in a pram down the main street, violently throwing the pram from side to side. Katherine was admitted to St. Elmo's Hospital in Tamworth, where she was diagnosed with postnatal depression and spent several weeks recovering. But after she was released, Katherine placed 2-month-old Melissa on a railway line shortly before the train was due to arrive. Then she stole an axe and went into town and threatened to kill several people. Told you, she gets worse. Like, a lot freaking worse. A man known in the district as Old Ted was foraging near the railway line. He found and rescued baby Melissa, by all accounts, only minutes before the train actually passed. Knight was arrested and again taken to St. Elmo's Hospital, but apparently recovered, and she recovered on her own accounts, by the way, and signed herself out the very next day. A few days later, Katherine slashed the face of a woman with one of her knives and demanded she drive her to Queensland to help find Kellett. The woman escaped after they stopped at a service station, but by the time the police arrived, Knight had taken the little boy hostage that was with the woman and was threatening him with the knife. She was disarmed when the police attacked her with brooms. Please, I hope that means something different in Australia. And was admitted to the Morisset Psychiatric Hospital. Knight told the nurses she intended to kill the mechanic at the service station because he had repaired Kellett's car, which had allowed him to leave, and then kill both of her husband and his mother when she arrived in Queensland. The police informed Kellett of the incident, and he left his girlfriend, and along with his mother, they both moved to Aberdeen to support Katherine. You fucking what? Just try and file for custody. Like, clearly she can't take care of the kid. Just try and apply for custody. You don't have to go back to this psycho. Anyway, Katherine Knight was released on the 9th of August 1976 into the care of her her mother-in-law, and along with Kellett, they now moved to Woodridge, a suburb of Brisbane, where she obtained a job at the Dinmore Meat Works in nearby Ipswich. Stockholm Syndrome, almost. Probably? Maybe? I mean, he definitely already left, but maybe. On the 6th of March 1980, they had another daughter who they named Natasha Marie. In 1984, Knight left Kellett and moved in first with her parents in Aberdeen, then to a rented house in nearby Mulesborough. Although she returned to work at the abattoir, she injured her back the following year and went on a disability pension. No longer needing to rent accommodation close to her work, the government gave her a housing commission in Aberdeen. So they gave her own little house, basically. She shouldn't have knives in any context. True. I think they only clearly let her keep the knives because it's part of her job, and that's the only reason why. So it's literally a job reason. Just don't let her have the job. But I don't know how she got away with a lot of this stuff, because she was known. She was known in the area by everyone. She was known by the police for everything that she was doing. Like, people knew what she was doing, but apparently that wasn't enough. In 1986, Katherine met 38-year-old miner David Saunders. A few months into the relationship, he moved into her home with her and her 2 daughters, although he kept his old apartment in Scone. Knight soon became jealous regarding what he did when she was not around and would often throw him out of the house. He would move back into his apartment in Scone and then she would stalk him and beg him to come back. In May 1987, she cut the throat of his 2-month-old dingo pup in front of him for no more reason than as an example of what would happen to him if he ever left her again or had an affair. So she did this before she knocked him unconscious with a frying pan. This girl really likes her frying pans. In June 1988, she gave birth to her 3rd daughter, Sarah, but her first with David Saunders, which prompted Saunders to put a deposit on a house, which Knight paid off when her workers' compensation came through in 1989, so only a year later. Katherine decorated the house throughout with animal skins, skulls, horns, rusty animal traps, leather jackets, that's not that weird, that's completely normal, old boots, machetes, rakes, and pitchforks. No space, including the ceiling, was left uncovered. So the entire house, top to bottom, was just coated in all of this stuff. After an argument where she hit David in the face with an iron before stabbing him in the stomach with a pair of scissors, he moved back to Scone, but when he later returned home, he found out that she had cut up all of his clothes. David took long service leave from work and went into hiding. Katherine even tried to find him, but no one admitted to knowing where he was. Several months later, he returned to see his daughter and found out that Katherine had gone to the police and told them she was afraid of him, and they issued her with an apprehended violence order, AVO, against him. So, for those who aren't aware, an AVO, also an apprehended violence order, is a court order that will restrict your freedom to go from certain places or act in certain ways towards another person. Not necessarily, it's kind of like a restraining order, but it also isn't at the same time. So in 1990, Knight became pregnant again for the fourth time, by a 43-year-old former abattoir co-worker, John Killingworth, I'm going to say Killingworth, and gave birth the following year to a baby boy that they named Eric. Their relationship lasted 3 years before she left him for a man she'd been having an affair with for some time called John Price. Now, John Price, if you recognize the name Katherine Knight, you will definitely recognize the name John Price, because obviously this is how it's going to go. John Price later turned out to be her victim. So, John Pricey Price was the father of 3 children from a previous marriage when Knight had an affair with him. Now, he was apparently a terrific bloke, who was liked by everyone who knew him. His own marriage had ended in 1988, while his 2-year-old daughter had remained with his former wife. The 2 older children lived with him. You're horrified but intrigued. I mean, I understand. That's the reason why I kind of get really interested in this stuff, because same reason. So, Price was well aware of Katherine's violent reputation. So why are you going with her? But anyway, maybe that's the intriguing part of the relationship. I'm not 100% sure. So, yeah, he was aware of her violent reputation and she moved into his house in 1995. His children liked her and he was making a lot of money working in local mines, and apart from violent arguments, at first, life was a bunch of roses, apparently. But, apart from the violent arguments, life's just a bunch of roses and everything's fine and dandy. But, we have violent arguments. Yeah. No. In 1998, they had a fight over Price's refusal to marry her, and in retaliation, Knight videotaped items he had stolen from work and sent the tape to his boss. Although the items were out-of-date medical kits that he had scavenged from the company rubbish tip, Price was fired from the job that he had had for 17 years. This whole relationship is Red Flag City. All of her relationships are Red Flag City. I think that every single relationship that she's ever had has always been fucking horrible. The same day, he kicked her out and she returned to her own home while news of what she had done spread throughout the town. A few months later, Price restarted the relationship, although he now refused to allow her to move in with him. The fighting became more frequent, and most of his friends would no longer have anything to do with him while they remained together. So basically his friends clearly already saw what was going on and was pretty much like, mate, if you're not going to leave her, we're not hanging out with you because this bitch is fucking insane. Which, fair. So this is, well, I fucked up so much. What's up, Milk? So in February of, also hello, Milk. In February 2000, a series of assaults on Price with Knight, which was, as I say, Knight stabbing Price in the chest, made him finally feel fed up. He kicked her out of his house, and on the 29th of February, he stopped at the Scone Magistrates Court on his way to work and took out a restraining order to keep her away from both him and his children. That afternoon, Price told his co-workers that if he did not come to work the next day, it would be because Knight has killed him. They pleaded with him to not go home, but he told them that he believed she would kill his children if he didn't go home like normal. Price arrived home to find that Katherine, although not there herself, had sent the children away for a sleepover at a friend's house. He then spent the evening with his neighbours before going to bed at 11 p.m. It's very triggering, but I fucked up. Do you want to just send it to me privately? And I'll give it a read after this. John also mentioned to his neighbours that night if his car is still in the driveway in the morning, Katherine has done something to him, potentially even killed him. Earlier that day, Knight had bought new black lingerie and had videotaped all her children while making comments which have been since interpreted as a crude will. Knight later arrived at Price's house while he was sleeping and sat watching TV for a few minutes before having a shower. She then woke John up and they had sex, and afterwards he just fell asleep. So I'm going to get up a picture of John Price for you right here, so this is John Price. He is the victim in this, so we will show a picture of him. Like I said, I don't ever show pictures of the actual person that's committed the crimes, but I will show the victims at least. But there wasn't actually really any pictures of her previous boyfriends, or husbands, so I couldn't really show them. So at 6 a.m. the next morning, the neighbour became concerned that Price's car was still in the driveway because he'd normally left for work around this time. When Price did not arrive for work, his employer sent a worker out to see what was wrong. Both the neighbour and if he knew he was going to die, why enter the relationship? I think he knew he was going to die towards the end of the relationship, I'm guessing. But again, I have no idea why. But I think he was already pretty much adamant at this point that, relationship or not, this was probably going to happen. Because we already seen that even if you're in a relationship with this girl, you're most likely going to get beaten the shit out of or end up dead, one of the two. So both the neighbour and the worker tried knocking on Price's bedroom window to wake him up, but after noticing blood on the front door, they alerted the police, who arrived at the home at 8 a.m. Message you. Okay, thank you. I'll read it after we finish this. Yeah, she's not dead. So the police arrived at 8 a.m. They broke down the back door and police found John's body with Knight also comatose from taking a large number of sleeping pills. So they found John's body on the kitchen floor, but Knight was in his bedroom, comatose from taking too many sleeping pills. She had stabbed Price with a butcher's knife while he was sleeping. According to the blood evidence, he woke up and tried to turn the light on before attempting to escape while Knight chased him throughout the house. He managed to open the front door and get outside, but either stumbled back inside or was dragged back into the hallway where he finally died after bleeding out. Later, Knight went to Aberdeen and withdrew $1,000 from Price's ATM account. Stop. 10 seconds of silence for the dead. What's going on? Why is there so many? We have to keep an eye out for that if that's going to happen quite a lot. So she then decapitated him and cooked parts of his body before serving up the meat with baked potato, pumpkin, zucchini, cabbage, yellow squash, and gravy in 2 settings at the dinner table, along with notes besides each plate. Since having the name of one of Price's children on it, she was preparing to serve his body parts to his own children. Who the fuck is this? Katherine Knight. She's a very bad lady. So Price's autopsy revealed that he'd been stabbed at least 37 times in both the front and back of his body, with many of the wounds extending into vital organs. Several hours after Price had died, Knight skinned him and hung the skin from a meat hook on the archway of the door to the living room. So when the police actually entered the home, one of the officers, when they managed to get in and they were examining and they were looking through the place, one of the detectives walked through the archway of that door, and he thought that he'd brushed away a curtain, like, you know, like how most people have like beads in an archway to a room, mostly the kitchen, and he thought that's basically what it was. He just thought that it was a curtain that was in the way, but then he looked down at his arm, saw that his arm was completely drenched with blood, and he was like, what the fuck is going on? What the hell is this? Have I accidentally like hit some of the evidence or whatever? Turns around to realise that what he thought was a curtain that he brushed away was actually John's skin that was hanging up from the meat hook. So a third meal was thrown out on the back lawn for unknown reasons, and it is speculated that Knight had attempted to eat the food herself but could not do it, and this has been put forward in support of her claim that she has no memory of the crime. Price's head was found in a pot with vegetables. Also, I think she remembers all of it. Yeah, Price's head was found in a pot with vegetables. The pot was still warm, estimated to have been at 40 to 50 degrees Celsius, indicating that the cooking had taken place in the early morning. Sometime later, Knight arranged the body with the left arm draped over an empty 1.25 litre of soft drink with the legs crossed. So she was decorating this shit. This was claimed in court to be an act of defilement, demonstrating Knight's contempt for Price. Knight had left a handwritten note on top of a photograph of Price, blood-stained and covered with small pieces of flesh. The note read, "Time you got back, Jonathan, for..." Bear in mind, she's illiterate, so she spelled a lot of things wrong, so she put rapping instead of raping. My daughter, you to Beck, which is Price's daughter, for Ross, for Little John, who is his son, now play with Little John's dick, John Price. So basically she's saying that I'm eating my head didn't realize. So I'm eating my head didn't translate, but how did I translate it in my head? No idea. So basically she's saying that John Price had raped her daughter and he should go and play with his own children's. But I want to point out the accusations were found to not be true. So everything that she wrote down in the notes for her reasonings for what she did turned out to actually not be true. He did not do any of that. Now, Knight's initial offer to plead guilty to manslaughter was rejected, and she was I can't say the word. She was apprehended on the 2nd of February 2001 on the charge of murdering Price, to which she entered a plea of not guilty. Her trial was initially fixed for the 23rd of July. Oh, wait, my birthday. I would have turned 3 on this day. So her trial was initially fixed for the 23rd of July 2001, but was adjourned due to her counsel's illness, and it was refixed for the 15th of October 2001. When the trial commenced, Justice Barry O'Keefe ordered the 60 jury prospects the option of being excused due to the nature of the photographic evidence, which 5 eventually did accept. When the witness list was read out to the prospects, several more also dropped out, after which the jury was impaneled. Knight's attorney spoke to the judge, who adjourned to the following day. The next morning, Knight changed her plea to guilty and the jury was dismissed. It was now made public that Justice O'Keefe had been advised of the plea change the day before. He had adjourned the trial and then ordered a psychiatric assessment overnight to determine if Knight understood the consequences of a guilty plea and was fit to make such a plea. Knight's legal team had planned to defend Knight by claiming amnesia and disassociation, a claim supported by most psychiatrists, although they do consider her to be sane. No reason has ever been given for the guilty plea, and despite giving it, Knight still refused to accept responsibility for her actions. Hey, upside down! What would you do if holy water splashed on you? I'd just be like, why? Why though? I've done my makeup, why are you trying to ruin it? So yeah, she was refusing to accept the responsibility of her actions. At the sentence hearing, Knight's lawyers requested that Knight be excused to avoid hearing some of the facts, but the application was refused. When Dr. Timothy Lyons took the stand and described the skinning and decapitation, Knight became hysterical and had to be sedated. On the 8th of November, Justice O'Keefe pointed out that the nature of the crime and Knight's lack of remorse required a severe penalty. He sentenced her to life imprisonment, refused to fix a non-parole period, and ordered that her papers be marked never to be released. The first time, and this is the first time that this has been imposed on a woman in Australian history, and to this day, no one else has gotten that sentence. In June 2006, Knight appealed the life sentence, claiming that the penalty of life in jail without possibility of parole was too severe for the killing. Justice Peter McLennan, Michael Adams and Megan Latham dismissed the appeal in the New South Wales Court of Criminal Appeal in September, with Justice McLean writing in his judgment, "This was an appalling crime, almost beyond contemplation in a civilized society." And that is the crimes of Katherine Knight. Well, the crime of Katherine Knight, but also the many weird, fucked up things that she did before. But yeah, that is her and every single fucked up thing that she did. And I told you, like, even though it's kind of like not minor, it's still fucked up. Like, ridiculously fucked up what she did. She really tried playing the diminished responsibility card. Yeah, she pretty much, like, tried to, but clearly she was just never all there. She was never all there, and she's apparently not insane. Which is insane. The fact that she is classed as not insane just is insane itself, because that woman just has, you know, issues. But anyway, that was True Crime Friday for this week, and I hope you guys really enjoyed it, because I did want to do that case for a good few weeks now, but I've never had really the chance to, because a lot of other cases came forward instead. But like usual, if anyone has any requests for any other True Crime Fridays, such as like next week's and so on and so on, you can always just let me know which ones. There is a suggestion box down below for that kind of stuff. Discord's available for that kind of stuff. Hopefully she dies in jail, honestly. It looks like that's definitely gonna happen. Also, I need surgery. I'm so sorry. 'Twas fun. My boyfriend is so handsome. Oh god, here we go. The simping has begun already. But to everyone on YouTube, thank you for watching this week's True Crime Friday highlight. And I'll see you next week for the next video. Au revoir.